For this video, I went for Clair Obscure Expedition 33's Platinum Trophy, but on Expert difficulty. And on Expert, enemies takes less damage, act more frequently, and of course, hit a lot harder. Which means missing a single parry or evade would one-tap any of your party members in an instant. While there isn't any difficulty related trophies, I figured it would still be a good challenge to do. While normally I wouldn't even touch a turn-based game on the hardest difficulty with a 10-foot pole, Expedition 33 introduces a brand new mechanic to the mix, parrying. Where classic turn-based games bury you beneath hours of relentless grinding for XP and gear just to survive. With the ability to parry or dodge, even the highest difficulty becomes not just manageable, but exhilarating. The game opens with a brief tutorial on evading and parrying. I completed it and earned 1 XP, which is nothing unusual. Then came the first real fight, a mime in Lumiere. It looked like the game was finally getting started. I broke his break bar for the first time, which caused him to get stunned and popping my very first trophy in the game, and another after successfully beating him. And for some reason, the only thing I got out of that besides the trophy mean is another 1 XP. And that's when alarm bells started going off. I was suddenly having flashbacks to Persona 5 on Merciless difficulty, where enemies gave out crumbs for experience and leveling up felt like a miracle. And with a level 99 trophy looming in the distance, that realization hit hard. If this was going to be the pace, I was in for an absolute grind. Eventually I ended up fighting Mael again, but this time she wasn't holding back. And it showed because this is when I received my first death. No! And another one for safe measure. No! When I finally beat her, a miracle happened. I actually got more than 1 XP this time. Oh, get owned! 2 XP! With the prologue done and another trophy to boot, the training wheels were off. While getting severely harassed by this mini boss, I did manage to fully charge Gustav's overcharge ability to fully break this guy for another quick trophy, which is also where I finally learned his moves and finished the fight without taking any damage. Good night. Let's go, professional trophy. And with finishing this area, I felt unstoppable. I didn't even totally take a very embarrassingly long amount of time to solve my first paint cage, where I had to look for 3 of these space meatballs and shooting them to open the cage for another trophy. But we aren't talking about that. We're talking about how I just finished a tough boss fight unscathed. I felt like an untouchable god until the game introduced another form of an evade, which had me really confused on certain moves that enemies do now, like this big jump attack, where my brain just automatically thinks to also jump for some reason, just to get Rikishi'd straight to hell. A couple things that happened before this event transpired, where I had to fight another mime in the wilds. While fighting that one awkward kid at school, I managed to consume 4 strains in a row, specifically for Lune. Every time she lands a critical on an enemy, the particular element would then be stored in her weapon, which in turn can power up her abilities depending on what strain it is. Hey, trophy. The moment the trophy notification flickered across the screen, I barely had time to process the achievement before the mime slammed me into the dirt with the full fury of a freight train. There was no time to recover before I was thrown into another harrowing encounter, a towering boss that seemed like it was pulled from some fever dream. A grotesque creature with a grotesque appetite. It devoured one of my teammates whole in the first minute of combat. I stood frozen for a beat, watching helplessly as they disappeared into its gullet. The only way to retrieve them was to push the beast to its breaking point. Only then, with what felt like a reluctant disdain, would it spit them back out. The enemy was no brute. It had form, strategy, a cruel intelligence behind every move. I was forced to learn fast. No! What the fuck? It hurled waves of acidic bile, unleashed unpredictable combos, and punished hesitation. My death counter climbed, 1 mistake at a time, each loss pushing me further into obsession until I finally managed to bring it down. And just as I thought I was gaining ground, I encountered my first chromatic enemy. Imagine a regular foe, one I'd already learned to deal with, but then injected with heroin. This one glowed with an ominous light, its movement sharper, more aggressive. It would be comical if he hadn't murdered me 6 times relentlessly. Each defeat only made him more personal. After finally clawing past him, I found myself back with Senior Bubblebutt. Amid the chaos of that fight, I somehow triggered another trophy. So my L has 3 distinct stances, and I happen to be in her Virtuoso form. In that stance, I used her Pierce ability in a marked enemy, fulfilling the trophy's requirement. It was a pure accident. I was playing blind with no guides or hints. So every trophy I earned felt like a lightning strike, unexpected, jarring, and oddly satisfying. When the fight ended, I was rewarded again. A story-related trophy marked the conclusion of the level. Then I got into this trophy combo, one for spending Lumina points and another for upgrading my weapon. I also checked up on my teammates, Mass Effect style, or Dragon Age, depending on your franchise, of course. But then came the return to war. On its difficulty, every new enemy encounter felt like walking into traffic blindfolded. Learning their moves wasn't optional, it was survival. Parrying wasn't just a skill, it was an art form, with a margin of error thinner than a whisper. Then came a new adversary, a shield-bearing juggernaut, towering and intimidating. He broke me, repeatedly, but I adapted and I learned. When he finally fell, I allowed myself a breath, a small celebration, but it was too soon. Since I didn't know that this particular enemy does a last-minute kamikaze style attack on your party after defeating them, which makes these dudes the cheesiest motherfuckers in the universe so far. Are you serious? Just when I believed I was finally past a relentless onslaught of shield-bearing enemies, the game made it clear I was nowhere near finished. Another stood in my path, larger, more refined, and exuding a far more menacing aura than the last. It was as though the previous one had undergone an unholy evolution, ascending into some final cannon-wielding form. His shields, no longer mere tools of defense, now bore artillery, bristling with weaponized fury and the kind of mechanical growl that made you reconsider your life choices. The fight was brutal. Every swing, every shot felt like it came with a lesson. Hesitation is death. But eventually I brought him down. And as if to reward my persistence, another story-related trophy appeared. Silent and satisfying, a quiet acknowledgement of survival. The victory earned me access to the Gestural Village, a place nestled beyond the chaos, seemingly untouched by the wars waged outside its borders. It had a kind of rugged charm, filled with curious architecture, ambient music, and of all things, a thriving community of merchants. But nothing came easily here either. The Gestural merchants weren't interested in traditional coin or diplomacy. No, in true warrior economy fashion, I had to fight them before they would sell me their most prized wares. Somewhere amidst the dust and shouts of the village, I also stumbled upon a curious moment, a small detail tucked into the environment that didn't announce itself. Whether it was an Easter egg or a reference, I couldn't be too sure, but it was a nod to something, somewhere. Subtle enough to feel like a secret, shared only with those paying attention. This is fine. That's funny. Progress required participation in a series of arena battles, a gauntlet of challenges where the villagers watched with indifferent curiosity, and outcome determined whether their leader would even speak to me. I fought my way through them, bloodied but not broken. I eventually stood before the gestural leader herself. There was an option to challenge her directly, so I accepted. It did not go well. She dismantled me effortlessly. Almost graciously, as a matter of fact, as if to demonstrate just how wide the gap truly was. Despite the overwhelming power she displayed during our duel, the gestural leader surprised me. Without another challenge, without further bloodshed, she offered me the password I needed to continue. As her words settled in, another trophy unlocked, marking the completion of my business with the village. Not long after, I encountered the strongest of gestural kind. Thankfully, he was no enemy. There was a calmness to him, a strength that didn't need to be shouted, only felt. But if I wished to earn his help, I first had to face someone else, his closest companion, a guardian of sorts. The reason why involved deeper matters, ones I won't spoil. It took several attempts, each failure chipped away at my composure, but also sharpened my understanding. Eventually the tide turned, I won. In doing so, I earned not one, but 2 trophies, one for completing the trial and another for officially recruiting SKA. From there, the game opened up again, and I wandered the open world, half exploring and half recovering. That's when I met another Bulgian. These beasts, towering monsters with stomachs like black holes, have a particular taste for party members. I recognized the pattern immediately. It opened its mouth, and one of my companions vanished inside, helpless. Only this time, something was different. its level was significantly higher than mine. My attacks felt ineffective, like tossing handfuls of uncooked rice at a freight train. The smart choice would have been to walk away, come back later when I was stronger. But I am not a smart man. I am stubborn. And the thought of experience points, the challenge, the glory, it all kept me tethered to the fight. And so began one of the most punishing encounters of my journey. My death counter doubled by this one enemy alone. I missed parries, misread patterns, and paid the price again and again. The fewer we were, the harder it became. And then during one of my best attempts, its health bar scraping the floor, it did something I hadn't seen before. Huh? He ate both? It swallowed another one of my party members. I froze, not out of fear, but disbelief. 2 gone, just like that. I had 1 left, and I was so close, but I didn't give up. The final attempt was a 2-hour blur of near deaths, adrenaline, and calculated risk. Every second felt like a razor's edge, but somehow I made it. With a single surviving character bloodied and near collapse, I brought the beast down. And in that moment, I didn't care about the loot or experience. All I felt was a wave of pure electric relief. Not long after, I earned another trophy, but this time with CL, who's quickly become a staple in my main lineup. Her damage output is nothing short of devastating. The requirement was specific: stack 20 fortune cards on an enemy, then consume them using her Twilight phase. With CL on my team, that was bound to happen eventually. She turns fights into poetry, elegant, deadly, and efficient. With her around, even the game's harshest enemies start to feel like overgrown gummy bears. Still riding the high of my previous victory, heart still pounding, I ventured into a nearby cave hoping to find something interesting, or at least less traumatic. Instead, I found this guy. A boss so absurdly ominous, so drenched in shadows and theatrical menace, that the mere sight of him froze me in place. He didn't move. He didn't need to. Everything about him screamed Dark Souls energy. Long, sweeping weapon, glowing eyes, and an ominous aura surrounding it. I stared. He stared. And then in a very brave, very tactical decision, I left.
Come on, man.
Because the moment I rounded the corner, chest heaving, blade still warm with effort, I found myself face to face with what could only be described as the real boss of the level. I didn't even blink before diving into battle. Its moves came at me fast, but I figured out its pattern within seconds. It wasn't too difficult really, even if it did take a little longer to bring down than I'd like to admit. But the kicker? This wasn't even the end. No, it was only the beginning. As its crumbling body slumped backwards, the battlefield shifted. A second phase rose like a specter from the smoke. Now, not only did I have to contend with the grasping limbs and murderous lamps that fired lasers like they were trying to light up a rave, but it also had acquired a sword. A very large sword. One that, if I mistimed my parry by even a breath, could wipe out my entire squad in a single brutal stroke. And then, as if to twist the knife deeper into the pile of lifeless bodies around me, when I failed the second phase, and fail I did, I was sent all the way back to phase 1. No checkpoints, no mercy, just pain. The cycle repeated over and over. My parry timing somehow worse than a toddler trying to clap to a metronome. Every time I thought, this is the moment, the boss proved me wrong. But eventually, after dozens of deaths and a personal vendetta against laser-spewing interior decor, I struck the final blow. A trophy popped. Act 1 complete. Act 2 wasn't so different that it didn't ease me in. It actually lit me on fire. The difficulty ramped up with the kind of arrogance only a game this confident could wield. The enemies evolved. Their moves, once predictable, now had the erratic energy of a caffeinated wasp. Counters came in flavors I didn't know existed. Every battle was a test. Every room a crucible. It was in this chaos that I met a familiar face, or rather, a meaner, more volcanic version of one. A returning enemy, now bigger, angrier, and literally on fire, emerged like a mini-boss straight from the pits of digital hell. He was fast. Too fast. Blink at the wrong moment and I'd find myself heading to the respawn screen faster than I could say, oh shit. He flattened me more times than I could count, but I couldn't help but admire the fight. Once I adapted to his pace, read his fury, it became one of the most exhilarating encounters in the entire game. A dance of fire and fists, and I loved every second of it. By now the pattern was clear. Every level had a boss with not one, but 2 phases of unrelenting suffering. And Samurai Jack, he was no exception. I almost had him on my first attempt. Almost. I was so close. But a single misstep on a late game attack wiped my squad off the face of the battlefield. Fortunately, I had 4 members total, and with my last surviving ally, I managed to rally. We fought, clawed, survived, and I celebrated too early, because of course he had a second phase. And of course, he killed me instantly. as he should. This boss was something else. He didn't just fight, he performed. His combos chained into more combos, weaving together like a war dance or that of an angry caveman. I couldn't remember his moveset because he had so many of them. It was like fighting a one-man martial arts anthology. At one point he summoned the spirits of his ancestors who apparently also wanted a shot at my sweet, overconfident ass. I'd fought him for so long, I earned a separate trophy mid-fight for Verso's challenge, awarded for striking an enemy while Verso was at his S-rank state. But when I finally won, it ended in one of the most cinematic, badass cutscenes the game had offered so far. And the reward? Another trophy. And a laugh, because in the graveyard terrain was an NPC halfway down the earth. I don't know why, but it was the funniest damn thing I'd seen in hours.
Damn! How they buried this man? Yo, you're gonna do this man dirty like this? He's not even all the way in.
Then came Monaco, the final companion, the last piece of the team, and easily my favorite character in the entire game. But before he would join us, he had to test us. Monaco was no pushover. He stood his ground like every other enemy on expert difficulty, brutal, precise, and completely unforgiving. The duel was intense and fair, and like all great rival battles, it pushed me to fight better. But the game wasn't done yet. After his defeat, a larger monster burst forth, demanding one more round while Monaco watched from the sidelines. This time though, the beast wasn't nearly as challenging as Monaco himself. After we brought it down, Monaco finally joined the squad, and the Expedition 33 trophy appeared, showing that every single squad member had now been recruited. One more trophy followed for clearing Monaco's station, a satisfying punctuation mark at the end of a chapter. Now in a new place, Old Lumiere. The name felt like a memory I hadn't lived, half forgotten and wholly foreboding. The moment I arrived, I could feel the weight in the air. It was quiet here, but not empty. Something watched, something waited. The streets twisted unnaturally, lit only by flickering remnants of a past that refused to die. And the enemies? New faces, new horrors, moved like ghosts with knives. They didn't rush because they didn't need to. One mistake and I'd be left with barely a heartbeat, or none at all. I'd like to describe what came next, but bosses, the revelations, the moments that made me stop and stare, but I can't. Not without tearing open secrets meant to be discovered, not told. This place is heavy with spoilers, and to speak too much would betray it. But I will say this, I finished it. The game acknowledged my survival, not with fanfare, but with a soft chime. And for the island of masks, a fractured land wrapped in eerie quiet, where ancient rituals linger in the wind and the ground itself feels like it's watching. This is where I was tasked with defeating one of the two Axons, guardians in service to a greater threat known only as the Paintress. To reach her, I first had to conquer the first Axon. It didn't come as one beast, but three. Each mask a different face, a different trial. Joy, sadness, and anger. Each was a fight in its own right. Many bosses designed to wear me down before the real battle began. Sadness in particular marked a quiet milestone. Level 33. A trophy appeared without ceremony, like a pat on the back in the middle of a storm. After all three masks had been shattered, the way forward opened. I was brought before the guardian of the masks.
I think you pissed him off.
The battle was less brutal than expected. The first phase, I nearly died, but didn't. And to my own disbelief, I won on my very first try. The second phase knocked me flat, fair enough. I was still studying its movements, learning how it fought. But the rematch came quickly, and with familiarity came victory. On my second try, no less. Easiest boss in the game so far. But that's not bragging, it's just statistically impressive, because I never win these things on attempt number 2. With one Axon down, I turned my attention to the second. The second Axon was different. The mini-bosses here were optional, but leaving them alive felt wasteful. Free experience is still free experience, even when it's swinging claws at your throat. It was during this stretch that I encountered something new, something cruel, a curse, a status effect that slapped a countdown on the afflicted. When the number hits 0, death. Just like that. Predetermined doom, like a bomb you can't defuse. Cheap, effective, and annoyingly stressful. It meant one thing though, that speed was survival. If I didn't end the fight fast, I wouldn't have a party left to finish it. Thankfully, the bosses here weren't particularly difficult, just loud and persistent. One obstacle stood out though. A giant worm-like creature, and it killed me twice. But like everything else here, it eventually fell. Then came the final Axon, A spectacle of a boss fight, flashy and dramatic. The kind of battle that looks great in trailers but makes you squint in actual combat. The camera zoomed out so far that I needed a moment just to find where my party had gone. Not ideal when parry timing is everything. My team started to fall, 2 down, only Mayel remained, and somehow she held her own. She danced between attacks, landed hits that left real scars. When the boss dropped to a critical threshold, it changed its rhythm. New attacks, faster, but Mayel didn't flinch. She almost had it, almost. A final strike from the boss ended her run, but I wasn't done. The reserve squad moved in, cleaning up the fight Mayel nearly finished alone. And with that, the second Axon fell. Another trophy, another step forward. The doors of the monolith loomed before me, silent and immense. It wasn't just another location on the map. It felt like the end. The place where the Paintress waited. A soft chime, another trophy. For entering hell, apparently. The monolith wasn't just another dungeon. It was a parade of pain. Every enemy I had encountered so far, every variant, every killer from every biome, had RSVP'd to this reunion. It was like they missed me and wanted me dead. The Lumiere enemies stood out the most. One of them, with a simple spin attack, managed to erase my entire squad from existence. Twice. Same move, same result. I didn't even get the chance to breathe before I was flatlined. Still, I pressed on. Death was a suggestion, not a full stop. And after crawling through gauntlets of resurrected nightmares, I reached her. Paintress. And yes, she was exactly what a final boss should be. Her attacks weren't just spells or strikes, they were statements. Barrage of literal shooting stars tore across the sky. She wielded a black hole like a marble in the palm of her hand. With a single swing of her painted fan, she broke the sound barrier. And when words weren't enough, she levitated monolithic stones from the earth itself and hurled them like nukes from the old world. But that was just phase 1. Phase 2, unhinged. She summoned what could only be described as a Pacific Rim-sized kaiju, gifted herself the Staff of Wukong, and came at us like vengeance incarnate. Her attacks had a strange delay to them. Not hard to dodge at first glance, but the kind of trickery that makes you parry too early and then eat an entire reality warping punch to the face. Oh, and speaking of reality, she ripped it apart. Out of pure spite. I didn't even think it was necessary, but she just wanted to. But none of that compared to the final insult. She casted a curse, one that gave us 2 turns to finish her off. After everything, every parry, every close call, every inch I clawed off her health bar, this was how it could all end. Not by some grand finale or final flourish, but by a timer slapped on our foreheads. I stopped counting on how many times she killed us. I just wanted it to end. But maybe it was luck. Maybe it was stubbornness or spite or some glitch in fate itself. But somehow, I pulled it off. I struck fast, hit harder, and dropped her health bar before the curse could seal the deal. She fell. And the game, in its quiet, almost smug little chime, rewarded me another trophy. The Paintress was done. What followed I can't explain without spoiling the heart of the story. The veil lifts and what's behind it deserves to be seen, not told. Once again, everything past this point is an extreme spoiler warning, so here are the trophies that I managed to get shortly after this fight. With the story wrapped up and the Paintress finally reduced to a memory, it was time for the part every trophy hunter dreads and secretly loves, the cleanup. This was the stretch where logic went out the window and I started tackling objectives in the most questionable order possible. And naturally, I chose to begin with what might be the most obnoxious enemy in the game. Not hard, not threatening, just annoying. The chromatic Petanque. At first glance, it's kind of cute in a sentient Pokeball kind of way. It only has 2 attacks, but then the real game begins, because this oversized marble comes with company. 2 smaller Petanques spawn alongside it. And here's the catch, if you don't take them out in time, and I mean quickly, one of them will scamper off into the void. Sounds harmless until the main Petanque suddenly heals for 500,000 HP like it just ate a whole cow. And just like that, the fight resets, over and over. It's like fighting a health bar with legs, who's also really into cardio and emotionally dependent on his sidekicks. Literal hours had passed. The kind of hours where you start questioning life choices and staring at the screen like it personally wronged you. But after enough button mashing, rage resets, and tactical pacing around the room, I finally wore the chromatic Petanque down and put the little orb menace to rest. I didn't cry, but the controller did get a small hug. After that deeply spiritual experience, I decided to give my blood pressure a break. I checked in with CL and SKA first. We had some heartfelt talks, exchanged a few sarcastic remarks, and unlocked SKA's final ability, along with a little pop-up for reaching max level with SKA as well. Next up were Lune and Monaco. Helping Monaco out led me triggering a level 3 gradient attack. Another milestone knocked out. Smooth and stylish. Then there was Mael. A few missions later, her journey with me was complete, and all companion-related achievements were officially crossed off my mental checklist. With the crew squared away, I turned to exploration. No plan, no real destination, just following my curiosity wherever it led. I wandered around areas I'd skipped, poked around forgotten corners, and before I knew it, I hit level 66. Now came the real test of endurance, the Endless Tower. 33 trials. Just a relentless climb where every floor tried its best to kill me with flavor. What was meant to be a structured gauntlet turned into an all-day marathon. But why? Because the devs clearly thought, what if we threw multiple chromatic enemies at the player at once? As if one wasn't already a nightmare. Now imagine 3, all spinning, all buffed, all grinning like they knew they were about to wipe the floor with me. But through the haze of trial and error, resets, and one too many you died screens, a revelation struck me like lightning, and her name was Mael. She wasn't just strong, she was actually cracked. Mid-fight, by accident, I landed a hit that dished out 2.5 million in raw damage. I sat there, stunned. The chromatics were stunned, and the game probably had to take a moment to process it. And in that moment of clarity, I saw the path forward. Mael in her virtuoso stance, wielding her Stendhal ability, an attack that targets one poor soul and erases them from existence. But all of this required precision, and, surviving long enough to set it up. So with this plan in mind, I maxed out Mael's weapon, fittingly to level 33. Armed with strategy and some very high expectations, I dove back in. And while the gauntlet still kicked my ass sideways, at least now I was returning the favor with quick, surgical strikes. And of course, that didn't stop the game from bundling together every enemy I hated into one lovely, soul-crushing floor. Every death raised my frustration, but also my determination. I wanted to clear this floor before I called it a night. I could feel it, I was so close, and then I wasn't. Samurai Jack, the Mask Keeper, and some random chromatic who probably wandered in by mistake and decided to stay. My A team was wiped, just like that. But I had faith. The B team stood ready, and while they didn't pack Mael's nuclear punch, I believed they could grind it out. What followed was a slugfest. No flashy damage, just counters, parries, and pure will. I could do this, I just had to be perfect. And then Lune missed a parry and folded like clean laundry. It was now all up to Verso, with a hope and prayer. And somehow I was dialed in. Parrying with such precision, I almost scared myself. The first to fall? Samurai Jack, who promptly ate the pavement. Only the Mask Keeper and that random guy from a house party were left standing. Every parry mattered. One mistake, and it was over. But they couldn't touch me, I was in the zone. Their health bars barely moved, but they were moving, and that's all that mattered. And just when I needed one last hit, I choked. The parry window came, and my brain finally decided to process what was happening. You're about to win. Big mistake. That moment of self-awareness cost me everything. The miss, the wipe, the reset, the heartbreak. But now I was angry. Mael was back on the field. I had learned every attack, every windup, every frame of every animation. They didn't stand a chance. And finally, they fell. All 3 of them gone. I had done it. I beat the trio that almost gave me cancer. The final day was upon me, the last leg of the platinum journey, and it was time to face every trophy hunter's favorite, collectibles. But first, the tower. One floor remained in the Endless Tower, and whoever it was thought they could stop me. Unlucky for them, I had Mael. She practically erased them from existence like a chalk drawing in the rain. With the gauntlet finally behind me, I began sweeping the open world, hunting down every last journal and vinyl record. And at this point, I was so disgustingly overleveled, I stumbled into bosses that the game clearly assumed I would have fought 20 hours ago. They didn't stand a chance. While roaming, I accidentally picked a fight with some flying lighthouse dragon thing, which is not something you ever think you'll say. Between its infinite AP sucking nonsense and regenerating armor, the battle lasted way longer than I'd liked. While it did kill me once, I did come back and grounded that thing permanently. And as a bonus, turns out that was also a trophy. Then there was Monaco, who after collecting all the feat picks he dreamed of, helped me check off another entry in the trophy list. Using a guide now, I rounded up every journal I could find. The final one, however, wasn't just lying around. No, it was guarded by Simon. Now Simon was different. I expected a good fight, but I also hoped to learn its patterns. He wasn't just flashy, just brutally efficient. His favorite move, leaving my entire team exactly at 1 HP every time. One misstep and it was game over. To make matters worse, if he actually did kill someone, they were permanently deleted from the fight. Like, gone. Not fainted, but erased. But on my second try, I learned his rhythm. I was ready. I beat him. I was even a little disappointed that it was too easy. And that's when I remembered that every terrifying boss in this game had a second phase. All his attacks doubled, his speed ramped up. It was a deadly ballet of blades and delay baiting moves that made my brain melt. Death after death. after death, I couldn't keep up. Then from the Twitch chat, a voice of salvation, young Metro reminded me of an ancient prophecy once foretold by Bushido Cypher himself in a previous stream, the Cheater Picto, an artifact that lets a character act twice per turn. Oh, and if you fancy watching me live while I do these videos, feel free to give me a follow on twitch.tv/DoccoBell. Anyways, why didn't I use this during the tower? No idea, but I knew what I had to do. I hunted down the boss that held the Picto, which of course was another trophy because of course it was. Equipped with the new power, I went back into the ring. It did not make the fight a cakewalk, but it did give me a sliver of a chance. Mael with 2 turns, now we're talking. Just as the tide turned, Simon did the thing. Pulled the move straight out of a "we didn't balance this" dev meeting. He got tired and just erased me. No windup, no counterplay, just poof. 25 deaths later and I was on the verge of breaking. But then, I locked in. I became one with the game. No thoughts, just parries.
It's over, dude. It's over. It's over. It's actually over, bro. It's actually over, brother.
So be it.
Roulette, please. Please! Let's go! Yeah, trophy! He's the last. Get out of my face, homeboy.
Simon fell. The final journal was mine. I walked over, heart pounding, ready for that sweet sound of success, and nothing. No trophy. My soul left my body. I stared at the screen in disbelief, thinking that the trophy had bugged. Then once again my savior young Metro came through. There were actually hidden journals, and a few still remained, so hope returned. I found them and the trophy was earned, along with every vinyl and every missing gestural. The end was near. And of course the game wasn't done trolling me yet. I had to complete every gestural minigame. Most were tolerable. Then I got to the final one, a volleyball match on a raft with explosive enemies. Easy, right? I mean, I've been parrying things all game. Wrong. You repel them using your engage animation, so the timing, it was a nightmare. I raged like never before. Hands sweaty, spirit broken. To the dev who added this, may your microwave burrito always be cold in the middle. Eventually, by divine intervention, I cleared it.
Wait, so if it's 33, so half of that would be 17? If you're 2 years old, it's 17, right? Oh, you piece of shit. What a dick. Bro. He doesn't even know.
Next, I helped every friendly gestural, each with their own side quest. Another step, complete. Then came the 3 secret canvases, platforming puzzles leading to a hidden boss. The boss looked intimidating until Mael hit it for 32 million damage and sent it to another dimension. One final hidden boss remained. I had to beat 4 mini-bosses before unlocking her, but by now I was shredding enemies like paper napkins. Even this flashy boss didn't stand a chance. Mael handled it. 1 trophy remained, and it was level 99. So I farmed XP for an hour, zoned out, and eventually, dang, that was it. The Platinum Trophy. So to everyone who made it this far, I genuinely appreciate you. I've done my best to keep spoilers light, and if you haven't played this game yet, please do. Even if you don't like turn-based games, trust me on this one. It's worth it. Unless something mind-blowing drops out of nowhere, Clair Obscure Expedition 33 is my personal pick for Game of the Year. So until next time, keep it real, but not too real, because that's just boring. And I hope everyone has a phenomenal day. Rovi!